Drive at a Subaru dealer near you.
Here's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Flooding is a major problem today as Hurricane Floyd makes its way up the East Coast.
And at least for now, we're getting a little bit of a break from those flooding rains. I'm Jim Cantori on the South Shore of Long Island. We'll give you a live report in just a moment.
Floyd is dumping record amounts of rain, too, which in effect ends the drought, but at a pretty hefty cost with lots of flooding. Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of Weather Center. I'm Paul Emick. Conditions across the country are coming up, including some stormy weather in Arizona. But first, let's get right to the forecast center and Rich Johnson. He has the latest on Floyd.
Paul, as we watch Floyd, it is now moving rapidly off to the north-northeast, and it is now moving up the mid-Atlantic coast and will be affecting southern New England all the way through this evening with very heavy rain. I'll tell you more about that in just a second. First of all, I want to share with you some information about New Jersey, now in a state of emergency which has been declared. Governor Christie Whitman ordered schools throughout the state closed today as a precaution. Extra power company crews are on standby to respond to the power outages, and New Jersey actually is bracing for the worst of Floyd. Earlier this afternoon, I had a chance to talk with the governor of New Jersey.
And what we expect and what we're concerned about is flooding and wind damage, power outages from trees and branches coming down. So we're asking people, it's not a time to panic, but it's just to be prepared. And if they can stay inside this afternoon, later on this afternoon, this evening, do it. Stay home. Make sure you have batteries for your radio and your flashlight, and just settle in for the evening.
No doubt about it, across New Jersey, some rough conditions in neighboring states too. Flooding is a major problem and hard to believe considering the area under a drought not too long ago. Here's our satellite photograph showing the center of circulation racing off to the northeast associated with this little area yellow right here. That moved across eastern North Carolina and caused some flooding there earlier today, and still some big problems left behind it. 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the latest from the Hurricane Center. At that point, Hurricane Floyd was centered east of Chincoteague, Virginia. Chincoteague, Virginia is just south of the Maryland border on the Atlantic Ocean, and it was at that point moving north-northeast at 29 miles per hour. Would not be surprised at all to see that speed increase because it sure looks like it is beginning to really take off. Hurricane advisories, where you see the red shading, also would not be a surprise to see these advisories dropped a little bit later. Again, we have to wait for the Hurricane Center to see if that's exactly what they decide to do with their next advisory. Tropical storm warning still in effect for a large part of the mid-Atlantic as well as the northeastern coastline. That sort of wraps up the latest that we have with the information about watches and warnings. Right now, though, joining me is Dr. Greg Forbes, is our severe storms expert here at the Weather Channel. Greg, we've been following this, big flooding problems. Tell us a little bit about what you found out recently.
Well, we've just had word in Rich that the governor of Pennsylvania has also declared a state of emergency there. I believe it's because of all the flooding that's occurring in southeastern Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia area and all of southeastern and parts of eastern Pennsylvania. The streams are overflowing. Even some of the larger rivers probably will be having flood problems. Continues to just rain and rain. Philadelphia has had more than a half inch, 3/4 of an inch in the last hour again. Wilmington, Delaware, the rain problems spread up to just north of New York City, northern Connecticut, and are spreading toward Massachusetts.
Greg, we're looking at quite a few flood warnings in effect. The latest radar showing where the rain is coming down. What can places like Philadelphia, New York City, up to Boston expect through tonight?
Well, fortunately, Floyd is moving pretty quick now toward the northeast, and the heavy rains are occurring where the southeast winds ahead of the center of Floyd are blowing onshore. And so Philadelphia will only have a few more hours, but it'll be well into this evening before Boston has actually had the worst of its rain and then is finally over.
So we're still dealing, even though it's a fast-moving system now, lots of problems.
Still lots of problems, many inches of rain yet to fall in parts of New England.
All right, thanks, Greg. Again, that's Dr. Greg Forbes, our severe storms expert here at the Weather Channel. Now let's turn our attention to the crews up and down the eastern seaboard. This time we're going to Point Lookout, New York, the south shore of Long Island. Jim Cantori there giving us the latest. Jim?
And yeah, Rich, I'm just a little ways from Jones Beach. As a matter of fact, it is Jones Beach that's protecting this area right here from the hugest waves. You look behind me here, this jetty, where occasionally some of these folks frolic out a little bit too far. Look how big that spray comes up, and you definitely don't want to do that. But it's really about, let's say 300 yards out that we have some of the bigger waves. You can see all those huge whitecaps out there, and those are where we got 15, 20 footers. And we are, like I said, a little protected here as a result of Jones Beach. Well, folks, let's tell you what we have so far in the New York area. Good news, again, everyone taking this serious, pretty much from Key West up to Northeast Maine. And the workers sent home today. They wanted everybody that was all non-emergency workers home at about 3 o'clock, so things have been gradually winding down there. City schools in New York closed for the first time of a non-snow event. This is amazing. And many area schools actually sent home early because they did head to a school this morning, and we did get word of a state of emergency that was issued for Suffolk County. Now, I'm in Nassau County, and so far no words of power outages here. Winds really haven't increased all that much in the last hour, but there have been some power outages in Suffolk County. Earlier, some winds up around 50 miles an hour there with gusts, and they did cause some power outages. We will see more of that tonight as the worst of Floyd bypasses Long Island. I'll keep you posted here from the South Shore. Right now, let's go back to you, Rich.
All right, thank you, Jim. Undoubtedly getting the wind, rain heavier inland. Now let's head over to our expert desk with Dr. Steve Lyons. He is going to give us a little bit more about what is going on with Floyd, as Floyd now rapidly is making its way up the northeastern coastline.
Well, thanks, Rich, and it sure is making its way up the coast fast, and that's good news for rainfall, but this has been a rather unique event because it's moved relatively quickly up the northeast, yet we've still gotten a huge amount of rainfall flooding. That's because of that trough of low pressure ahead of it that caused the rainfall to occur many, many hours before the hurricane ever got there. Now, here's the latest infrared satellite imagery. You can see this little green hook here is what's left of Floyd as it zooms off to the northeast, and then we expect it to turn a little more to the east-northeast later tonight as it moves toward Cape Cod, all in association with this upper-level trough in dark here. Now, right now, surface circulation generally heading right toward the southern portion of New Jersey, near Cape May, actually, and heading off to the northeast. And the good news, at least right now, is that the winds down in the Carolinas are still relatively weak from the damage standpoint, not from the standpoint of weak relative to normal. That's 37-knot wind gusts there. And up in Virginia also, we've got some gusts to 46 miles per hour, but also 56 here right on the coast, very close to the circulation center as it moves off to the north. But we're not seeing something that's going to really show anything that's going to produce any significant damage to structures, which is very good news. You can see power lines down. You may be out of power for a while, but I don't think we're going to have anything major there. And it looks like the system is definitely weakening. Now, the time frame, it's moving very quickly, so this might be a little bit too slow. But later tonight, it's going to go right by New York City, and Jim Cantori there, right about where the dot is there on the island of Long Island there, is going to get the brunt of it probably in the next 4 to 6 hours, and then it'll be by Cape Cod on its way out by Friday morning and weakening. We don't expect this thing to strengthen anymore. As a matter of fact, at 5 we may see it downgraded to tropical storm. We'll have to wait and see what the Hurricane Center says. But we're still getting a lot of rainfall up here in the Philadelphia area and on toward the northeast, up toward White Plains, and that is not good news. Also expect some beach erosion from the high surf as it comes along the Long Island area. And of course, storm surge from the wind, even though the wind is not damaging from the standpoint of wind damage, it could be damaging from flooding from minor surge along the backside, front side, and side of Long Island, even along the Hamptons. Well, that's it for now, Rich.
All right, thank you, Steve. Again, that's Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert, reporting from the expert desk. Well, as we follow the situation, we've been telling you what's going on with Floyd right now. Earlier today, Floyd made landfall in North Carolina. I want to show you some of the scenes from North Carolina. Flooding making driving treacherous around Wilmington earlier today, and I would think surely still now there's big problems in the eastern part of the state. Some cars stranded, abandoned, others by their owners. One thing you should avoid doing is driving through that running water there. It takes very little water for your vehicle to lose its grip on the road and to start hydroplaning there, if not being swept away. And yes, places like the Tar River could be seeing all-time record crests of the river. So some big problems still to come. Just a reminder, if you're going to be away from the TV, you want to stay updated with Floyd or anything else to do with the weather, check it out at our online service, weather.com. Now let's head back to the studio with the latest on our forecast with Paul Emick.
All right, thanks so much, Rich. Elsewhere across the country, a little bit of good news to talk about. Chicago, Twin Cities, Indianapolis, Detroit. It's been a great day, thanks to high pressure. Nice towards St. Louis as well. In the plains, a little bit of wet weather, and some problems persist in the southwest. Right now, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the risk of severe weather in and around this particular area in northern parts of Arizona. Now, right now into south central Coconino County. Again, south central Coconino County, we have a tornado warning in effect. You should be seeking shelter there at the present time. Very stormy in some locations, a little wet in Utah, some flooding concerns here as well. Also across the plains, a lot of wet weather with more scattered showers and storms even in parts of Texas, but obviously the biggest problems are still in the northeast. Quick check of temperatures around 75 toward New York City, 90 toward Vegas, 69 toward Los Angeles, and a warm 90 toward Miami. Here's where we stand right now, but what about on in the evening and beyond? Well, it will stay a bit wet in the west, tranquil across the Great Lakes. But in the northeast, as Floyd continues to move and the moisture along with it, we'll see a rapid deployment of more rainfall across the northeast throughout New England, even into the morning. Now, bear in mind about, honestly, 80% of the country looking fine. High pressure really the rule rather than the exception, making for great conditions. But in the northeast, those heavy rains still cause many to be concerned, and for good reason. A number of flash flood warnings persist, as some areas could experience well over 5 to 10 inches of rain just between now and midnight, more beyond that. Here's a quick look at our cool start to Friday, and also wrap up there for the week. Friday's high temperatures still pretty warm across the west. We'll look at all of this wet weather and what impact it may be having on your drive. That comes up next in TravelWise right after your local forecast.
With all this talk about changes to Medicare, we were confused.
I'd only read a few things about the new Medicare Plus choice option, but I didn't really understand it or know how it might affect our current coverage.
We needed answers to these very important questions.
So we called this toll-free number and received this valuable guide to health insurance for people with Medicare, absolutely free, from United American Insurance Company.
This free guide could answer a lot of your Medicare supplement questions. I know it did for us.
With United American's Medicare supplement policy, you'll have the freedom to choose the doctors and hospitals you want.
And almost all of your Part B process claims are filed automatically.
Call United American for your free guide today.
We're sure glad we did.
Yeah.
This informative guide to health insurance for people with Medicare could answer a lot of your Medicare supplement questions. To receive your free Medicare supplement guide plus information on these affordable insurance plans available from United American, call 1-800-742-0437.
Here's your local forecast on the Weather Channel. a Michelin travel